So next chapter that we are going to learn is functionality of an OS. So first point is that the OS acts as an resource manager. Okay, so this is the first functionality of an OS, that it acts as a resource manager, or you can say resource governor. So when multiple users are requesting for the same system, generally in the server level what happens, just we have seen previously also, multiple users request for the same access. Okay, same requesting for a system to access, okay, some data or like that. So at that point of time the OS will act as a resource manager. Second is point is that the OS decides how much hardware it wants to give, it wants to provide to the user, and once the work is completed it takes away that hardware from the user. Okay, so this is how the OS manages everything, manages the resource, and there is a balance of load that is used in the system. Okay, and OS is used in a resource manager at parallel processing. In parallel processing, OS is used as a resource manager. Okay, so with an example you will learn it better. Okay, let's take an example of CPU management. Okay, so what happens, why does the OS act as a resource manager? Because it controls and allocates resources, computer resources, among different programs and users. So the main point is what it allocates. You have to remember this point, that it controls. What does the OS does? It controls and allocates computer resources among different programs and users. Okay, among different program and users. So let us take an example of CPU management. So suppose you have a web browser open. Okay, you have your web browser open. Okay, the web browser is open. You also have a music player running. Any music player like Spotify or anything is running. Okay, music player is running. Okay, and also you have a Word document open. Okay, a Word document is also open. So this is there is only one CPU and there is only one CPU. Okay, so now what happened, the OS, what the OS will decide, the OS will decide that how much time each of these CPU, each of these process gets. Okay, all these three process, how much time each of this program gets. Okay, among these three programs which one will run first. Okay, and when to switch on between the two programs, when to switch on between any two programs. So all this will be decided by the OS. So here what is the OS managing? The OS is managing the CPU, and CPU is an resource here. So the OS is acting as a resource manager. So this is the first functionality of an OS. The next, okay, under this functionality also you can take another, that is device management. Suppose printer is a device and you want to print something. Okay, you want to print two documents. So which document will be printed first, which document goes in the printer row first, all this will be decided by whom? All this will be decided by the operating system. Okay, so this is what is known as resource manager. Okay, this is a resource manager. Point number 2, let's see what is point number 2. Point number 2 is the OS acts as in process management. The OS acts as in process management. Okay, so process management is the OS function that creates, schedules, executes and terminate the process. Terminate any running process. Okay, so process management is the second functionality of an OS. Okay, so let us see how does this works. So let us take an example. Suppose you are using your computer to use your computer, using your computer to, point 1 is you are using it to listen to suppose Spotify. Okay, this is point number 1. Number 2 is type a report in suppose MS Word. And what is number 3? Number 3, suppose you want to download a file. Okay, download a file from internet. So these are the 3 things, or these are the 3 processes, okay, 3 programs that you are using your computer for doing these 3 things. Okay, also we need to remember that when is process management done? Process management, whenever CPU scheduling is done, CPU scheduling uses the OS for process management. Okay, CPU scheduling uses the OS for process management. So as I told that what happens in process management, the OS function, it will create, schedule and execute and then terminate the process, running process. Okay, so what are the functions? The function is number 1, process creation. Okay, process creation. So when you open MS Word, suppose you are opening MS Word. Okay, so what happens, opening MS1, okay, a process is created. When you open MS Word, a process is created. Second was what? After creating the process, what it will do? Process scheduling. It will schedule the process. Okay, so when is process scheduling done? When the OS decides whether your Word, whether Spotify or downloading the file gets the next CPU time. Okay, so your OS decides whether this, out of these 3 work, okay, 1, 2 or 3, the OS decides that whether this 1, 2 or 3, which one gets the next CPU time. Okay, next CPU time. Okay, 3 is process synchronization. 3 is your process synchronization. Now what happened in process synchronization? So it prevents the process from conflicting when accessing shared resource. Suppose 2 processes are using shared resource. So what will happen? This will prevent the process from conflicting. Okay, prevent the process from conflicting while using or while accessing shared resource. Okay, and process, what is number 4? Number 4 is process termination. What is process termination? So closing the application. Okay, so suppose if you close MS Word, what happens? It removes the process from the memory. Okay, closing MS Word means removing this MS Word, removing this from the memory, and then the memory can be allocated to some other process. So this happens during CPU scheduling. When the CPU schedules one process after another, at that time we use this process management. The OS uses this process management. And what have we seen? The process management is mainly used for creating a process, then scheduling it, like which process will go one after another. Okay, which process will get the CPU time next. Then synchronizing, that there are many processes which shares the resource, okay, same resource, so that don't conflict with sharing the resource. And the last one is terminating. That means once the process is used, once the process is completed, once you close the process is freed from the memory, and the memory can be used by some other process. Okay, so this is your next part, that is process management. Okay, the third point is storage management. Okay, storage management, we use an OS as in storage management. Okay, so storage means what? Secondary devices. Storage means secondary devices like your SSD or hard disks. Okay, so this is being managed by the OS. Okay, So the data we want to store permanently in our system is managed by the OS. Okay, so storage management is done through this is done through file system. Okay, this is done through file system. Okay, like CIFS, it can be used to store all the data permanently in the hard disks. Okay, so what happens, the OS manages the files and folders on a storage device such as SSD or hard disks. So again, if we take an example, suppose you have saved 3 files. Okay, you have saved 3 files. What are the 3 files that you have saved? One is your assignment, suppose .docs. One is your photo .jpg, and the third one is some movie .mp4. Okay, so what will happen now? What will the OS decide? The OS decide whether these files will be stored on the disks or not. Okay, whether these files will be stored on the disks or not. It will keep a track of their location. Okay, track of their location. Okay, next is it retrieves them when you open them. Okay, whenever you open them, it will retrieve them. And last is deletes the occupied space when the files are removed. If this file is removed, whatever space was occupied by this file, okay, that will be freed. Okay, or that or that will be deleted. Okay, so these are the things. This is deletes the occupied space. Okay, when the file is removed. Okay, so these are the thing that is used under what? Your storage management. Now the next thing that we are going to learn, the next functionality is your memory management. Now many person gets confused between storage management and memory management. There is no confusion. There should be no confusion between storage management and memory management. As I have told, storage management is used for SSDs or hard disks. Okay, but memory management consists of RAM. Okay, it consists of RAM, memory management. Next is our memory management. Storage management is used for SSD or hard disks, and memory management is used for RAM. Okay, so unlike hard disks, what do you know? Your RAM is limited, right? Your RAM is limited. So all the process gets executed first in the RAM. Okay, this is known as multitasking or multi-programming. Okay, so this is known as what? Multi-programming, or you can say rather multitasking. Okay, so we all know that all the process, where does it first gets executed? It gets executed in the RAM, and that is known as multi-processing or multi-programming or multitasking. Okay, so what happened? The OS, what it will do? It will allocate the RAM to different programs and keep track of which part of the memory is being used by which programs. Okay, so whatever program is there, whatever programs are there, programs are there. Okay, so what does it do? OS does, this RAM is allocated to different programs. Suppose I have 3 programs, so the RAM is allocated to program 1, program 2 and program 3. Okay, and then it will keep in track that which part of the memory is used by program 1, which part of the memory is used by program 2, and which part is used by program 3. Okay, so these are the things that the OS does. Now if I take an example, so suppose an example is that, suppose what does you open? You open your Google Chrome browser. Okay, one is your Google Chrome browser, or any browser you open. Okay, second is your MS Word. So you open these 3 things. One is your browser, one is MS1, and the third one is what? Suppose you open your Spotify app. Okay, so your computer has 8 GB RAM. Okay, it has 8 GB RAM. Okay, so what will the OS do? So the OS may allocate, the OS may allocate, what will it allocate? It may allocate suppose 3 GB for this browser, okay. For MS Word it may allocate 1 GB, okay, and suppose 500 MB it is allocating for Spotify, okay. So what is the OS doing? My computer has this much of memory, so and the OS is allocating which program gets how much memory, okay. Each program gets enough memory, okay. It will ensure that each program gets enough memory, okay. One program cannot access another program's memory, means your first program cannot access your second program's memory and vice versa, or your second program cannot access your third program's memory, okay. Whenever, just like previous one, whenever a program is closed, what happens? The memory is freed, okay. Memory is freed, okay. So this is all about our memory management. And the last point that we have is that security and privacy, okay. Security and privacy is our fifth functionality of an OS. I hope till now it is all clear to you. So as you can see that every point from resource management till memory management, every functionality of an OS is related to something or the other, okay. Just like your resource manager is related to parallel processing, process management is related to CPU scheduling, storage management is related to file systems, and your memory management is related to multi-programming or multitasking, okay. That is removed, let me write again, or you can say multitasking, and also this is related to your RAM, okay. Your fifth and foremost point is your security and functionality is security and privacy, okay. So the OS protects the computer and the file and the user's data from unauthorized access and ensures that only authorized users can access the resources, okay. From any unauthorized access it will remove, it will not allow any unauthorized access to access the data, okay. So like your example, if I take like example is like file privacy, okay. File privacy, suppose there are two users, user A and user B, okay. We have separate users, okay, and these two users have separate accounts, they have separate accounts. You can see like in Windows also two persons have two separate accounts, okay. So two separate accounts in same computer, separate accounts in same computer. So what happens in this case? Suppose user A saves a personal document, okay, okay, and user B, what does user B do? User B logs in, okay. So what will the OS do? It will prevent user B from accessing user A's document, okay. So it will prevent that. This is known as, this is which part? This is the privacy part. This is known as privacy, okay. So the OS is providing privacy by protecting the personal data of user 1. And now if I take an example of security, okay, example for security, if we take, what happens? Suppose user login password, okay, your user login password, okay. So when you start in your computer, what happens? Your OS will ask for what? Your OS will ask for your username and your password, okay. So if the password is correct, you get the access is granted, okay. If the password is wrong, access is denied, okay. So this is provide security. What it is doing? It is providing security by preventing unauthorized access. Anyone who doesn't have the password cannot access the program or cannot access your computer, okay. So this is the last and final point or functionality of an OS. So these are the 5 functionalities that an OS have. I hope it is clear to everyone. If you have any query, you can ask in the comment section. Thank you for joining. We'll come back soon with the next class, that is types of operating system. Thank you.